What is going on, idiots? Kelly again, out here in Kellyland. It's 0 dark 30. Got another project for you, so why don't we get started? Go grab your favorite adult beverage and a tasty treat and meet me back here in a couple minutes.
Hey there, how are you? Hello, welcome back.
Boy, we got quite the pile of parts going over here. These are fancy new rocker pedestals that are milled to receive our ARP head studs. Going to be putting the head studs in tonight. Before we do that, we're going to go ahead and do the timing just because that's easier. And I've been putting off this head stud deal for quite some time. There's a lot of them, like 26. So, first thing the guy should probably do, which I've already done, is count all your head studs. Make sure you have the right number of all the different lengths. Count your washers, count your nuts, make sure you got plenty of lube. This is the lube that they send you, just a little packet, which everybody says if you use it sparingly is enough. I just went ahead and got the old Big Dipper. Shoo! That way we can be liberal with the lube. I got all that stuff counted. I'm just going to clean them as I go. I'll pull a head stud or a head bolt, bring it over here, deposit it in the box, pick up one of equal or greater length, clean it, lube it, go slap it in. I know that these head bolts are torqued to 125 foot-pounds from when I did my valve springs and all that. So I'm going to throw one in and torque it to 125, which is the manufacturer recommended torque spec. And then once they're all in, I might go around and take them all to 130 or 135, at least for now. I think some guys have had them as up as high as 150, but I'm not going to push it, especially since it's been cold out here. But oh, Kelly's wife picked him up a freaking Dynaglow. Dynago Deluxe, professional grade, all the BTUs. And the best part is, it's like a automated diesel fuel air freshener. It's awesome. So might be breathing in some carbon monoxide out here. Who knows? But to get started with the timing, we're going to use our power-driven diesel magnetic timing ring wheel thing, and timing gear puller from them as well. Pretty straightforward. If you're wanting to do yours, I would actually go watch Power Driven's video. I think they've got a couple videos on it that are pretty good. That's what I used the first time I did it. Since I know where mine's at, I'm not going to mess around with top dead center or flagging the pump. I'm just going to bust this gear loose and advance it. When I advanced it before, stock, which should be printed on this tag right here on the side of your timing case, stock on mine was 12.5 degrees, and I took it to 18 degrees, which has treated me well. Starts good, gets good mileage. I guess it's been quite a while since I checked the mileage, but I got no complaints. It really smoothed out like the 2200 RPM to 3000 RPM, really smoothed out that section. You could hear and feel that the engine liked running at those RPMs better after bumping the timing. So now we're gonna bump it just a little bit more to try and make it a little happier in the 3000 to 3500 RPM range. So yeah, the idea behind it is the sooner you start injecting the fuel in there into the cylinder, the more time it has to burn before it leaves, before the exhaust valve opens. So should get lower EGTs, should shift my peak horsepower further into the higher RPM range. It's probably not going to like starting. I'm going to go to 22.5 degrees. I don't know if I said that yet or not. I was thinking about 24, but that's kind of pushing it for spraying outside of the bowl of the piston, which you don't want to do. So I think 22.5 will be a nice bump. So I went from 12.5 to 18. So that's 5.5 degrees. And I'm going to go another 4.5 to get to 22.5. So should be a noticeable change, but not too much to make it hard starting. Don't mind all my junk. This is a shit truck. I don't know if I've ever officially referred to it as that, but we beat on it. We haul trash with it. Take Lehman for rides. Lehman likes to go for rides. So, enough chit chat. Let's get going. Alright guys, sorry for that slow and painful to watch little time lapse there, but as you can see, we got the timing gear popped off. You just throw a bolt back in it to use for leverage on the gear. Probably can't see down in there. No. Throw a bolt back in there to use as leverage on the gear so you can wiggle it around and get things cleaned out. It is imperative that you get the space behind the gear clean, which is very hard to do, but that's the only way you're going to get your timing to stick and not slip. I couldn't get a good angle for you guys, and the heater was running, so you wouldn't have been able to hear me anyway, but went ahead and advanced the timing. So before you move the motor, after breaking the gear loose, you set your dial to 0, get yourself a piece of wire, run up here to use as an indicator. And I mean, this is not a fine-tuning type exercise. There's a proper way to do this with some specific tools, some job-specific tools, but we got a piece of wire and a circle with lines on it. But set that to 0. You turn the motor counterclockwise to retard it in comparison to where the pump is at in time, if that makes sense. You want to go way past your target and then go clockwise until you get back to your target. So in this case, we ended up going 5 degrees instead of 4.5, but that's all right. It'll make it extra spicy. All that's left to do now, timing wise, is make sure that the motor doesn't move. I'll clean out this pump shaft some more with some more brake clean, and then blow it out with air. That seemed to work okay last time. And then I'll get the nut and washer back on there and torque her down. I think it's like 144 foot-pounds. something like that. I'll look it up, but it's pretty high. But you want to make sure this don't slip either, or else your truck will hardly run if it runs at all. All right, guys, we got our timing nut, timing gear tightened back down. Should be sitting right around 23 degrees, I believe. So that should be nice and spicy. We'll go ahead and move on to these head studs. Alright guys, hopefully you can hear me over the heater, but I've come to my first one that requires a new rocker pedestal. So what I'm going to do is get this cleaned up with brake clean, and then I'll transfer the rockers over to the new one. Just got to pull the spring clip, we call it C-clip, spring clip, whatever they are, pull them off, swap them over, make sure it's nice and clean, and get it back on. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, there she is. 26 freshly installed head studs. They say it went pretty well. It's worth noting that I skipped a couple steps that most people recommend. One of those would be either chasing the threads or bottom tapping the holes. There's some, I don't know, I guess there's some risk involved. If you had the head off already and you were doing a new head gasket, then I definitely would have done it. A, because you'd have all the room in the world, and B, that's really when you should do it. If you try and do it with the head on, you run the risk of breaking off the tap or losing the tap in the hole and having to take the head off anyway, so that's kind of a bigger project. The other thing would be cleaning out the holes after you take the head bolt out before you put the stud in. A guy should probably take a shop vac with a straw on the end or something to suck out all the holes. All the head bolts I took out looked pretty clean. I tried to be mindful when I was putting them back in that we have close to the same stud protrusion, you know, the amount of stud sticking out of the top of the nut on all of the like studs, so all the ones that are the same length, or however you want to call it. But yeah, I kept cleaning the studs one at a time. That worked good. Give you a good chance to inspect each one. I did find a couple that I had to take the brush to. They just had some gunk stuck in them, but I didn't find any that were defective at all. I wasn't short any parts or anything, but I counted all that ahead of time. One thing to note when you're putting this back together, this rocker arm right here is loose just because of where it's at on the cam, and I took and loosened up all the adjusters before I started. But you want to be mindful putting these rocker pedestals back down that some of them that are on the cam lobe, even though you have the adjuster all the way out, it's still got tension. You want to make sure that that nub on that adjuster gets down in the cup on the push rod. Just a little something. But yeah, we're up into the wee hours of the morning now, but we got all our head studs in. Like I said, I took them all to 125 as I went, and then when I got done, I actually ended up taking them up to 140. They all felt good at 140. None of them felt spongy at all. They just weren't moving at all at 135. So I was worried that I wasn't really adding any value there. So bumped her up 5 pounds. That felt good. I think it'll hold, and we'll find out. Tuning, or the timing, is pretty spicy. It's going to be pretty spicy, so we'll see if it holds. We know it would hold at 18 degrees with 50 pounds of boost. Nothing should really change with our boost. It could go up or down a tad with the new timing, but I'm not going to make any adjustments to the fueling. This little bit of timing should clean up the last little bit of smoke that I had at wide open throttle, so should be pretty cool. But that's going to wrap it up for this one, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you on the next one.